Hey Photography, this week we are looking at documentary photography. It's a really broad genre. Some people might include photojournalism in this, some might not. But basically, documentary images are trying to just provide an understanding of the world at large. So sometimes it's people, it's places, and it's things that you would normally see in a day-to-day life but not think about. So big understanding, things you would normally see, but not always think about when you see them. I'm going to try and keep today's video a little bit shorter, so let's go. Alright, this first series is called The Homeless Paradise, and it was done by Diana Kim. This was actually the first image of the series and is what inspired the whole series. She did a whole series dedicated to humanizing the homeless by sharing their stories. Diana Kim started taking pictures of homeless people on the streets in Honolulu, her hometown, and she actually discovered her father was among them. This is her father. She didn't know that he was in the area or homeless, and this is how she discovered it. So a little bit about the story. I wanted to include so much from it because there's so many amazing pictures. But with each picture is at least a sentence or two about the person or their story, to kind of get a better understanding of who they were and humanize them, meaning make them a little bit more known to you so you can have a little bit of empathy. All right, so like I said, documentary photography is documenting real life. You can see examples of this in magazines like Time magazine, history books, stuff like that. It's what we use years later to look back at a time. So these photographers are making history for future generations. This next series is a little bit funny and goofy. It was done by Louise Bielefeld and Louise, I'm sorry. And her series was titled Weeknight Dinners. And basically, she went to anyone who agreed to their home and took a picture of their typical evening meal that they would do for themselves or for their family throughout the United States. She took pictures in almost every state just to see the differences of how families eat dinner. She really asked the families to pretend like she wasn't there. She wanted it to be just an observation and not really interfering. So each image is looking at a family or an individual. The one I picked is an individual. Feel free to look up the series Weeknight Dinners. There's so many good examples, but I love this one because I just love how much is going on in this photo. You have figurines, you have so many decorative pillows and curtains, and it is a lot of stuff, and it is hilarious to me. And I think the lady staring directly at the camera, like, yep, this is my house. You better respect it. I feel like that's the look she's giving. All right, so these were shown in a gallery originally, very large prints, and the reason we do that with documentary photography is there's so much detail going on in this photo, and you can't see it all. So when you blow it up, you're able to see all the details. All right, this series was done by Stijn Hoekstra, and I'm probably butchering his name. I struggle with Japanese names. I'm sorry. Not my French background there. All right, so this entire series was in Japan's capital, Tokyo, and it was all about the culture. I wanted to show, and I think I have in the next slides a few more, I wanted to show every single photo from this series. I struggled to pick just one to show because he is mixing the neon type of Japan, Tokyo, big city, kind of like New York City, with the traditional customs of Japan. And it's just a really unexpected compositions. This is my favorite photo of the series. I really debated whether I should show this one or not because, he's doing something that can't be shown in a PG-13 movie. So this series is both documentary photography and street photography, and I'll talk about that in a second. But he really wanted his images to have a cinematic feeling to them, like they came out of a movie. And this right here looks very old Hollywood, looking at the car, the suspenders, the hat, all of it. I included a direct quote. I edited the pictures of my computer in Lightroom. That is the editing app that we were supposed to be using in our classroom. If you have an iPad or an iPhone, they have a free version of a smaller version of Lightroom, so feel free to get it. I think it works on Android devices as well, but it works great with Apple. It's what I have. He said that he rarely crops an image, and he never edits it in the full version of Photoshop, which means he does not do large edits. What you see is what was there. But the color grading is what he does edit, and you can do that in Lightroom. So he makes blacks more black, shadows darker, and highlights a little bit lighter. That's all he does, and I think that is a great technique. If a photographer can produce images like this with barely any editing, then that is the mark of an amazing photographer. And slight note, do not smoke. It is bad for you. Don't do it. Bad. All right, here are some of the other images from the series. I just tried to pick some that I liked, but he has so many. And I included another quote because I like that he talks a little bit about the cameras he uses. Majority of the project was shot in his Fuji X100, and that I have never really worked with Fuji, you guys, so I don't know much. Everyone I have talked to that works with Fuji absolutely loves it. It has a wide angle lens, so that's why he's getting some really nice wide shots, and I'm sure it's a great camera. He also uses a Sony A7, which, if you watch my videos, that is what I use, what I shoot with. He has a different model of the A7. I think mine is just a little bit older. And then he again uses a wide angle lens. He uses his 28mm and his 35mm. I tend to use a 35. That's just me personally. But 28 is great as well. I think I use the 35 because of my film camera had a 35, and I just love it. Since we are doing lines this week, I really like the bottom right, the lines and the man kind of going perpendicular to them. I just think that's great. All right, our last one is by John Decker, and the series is called Carnival Worker. I didn't include a lot of information about this because I really want your opinion on it. There's a lot of movement and motion going on. Most of this series is very dark in the coloring and the saturation. That's because he was shooting at light and he wasn't using flash. So instead, he was doing a slower shutter speed, so that way more light would be coming through the lens, but that creates more blurred motion if anything is moving. That's why even the people are a little bit blurry, because the lens shutter is staying open longer, so if they move, it's capturing that movement. This series is amazing. If you have time, please Google Carnival Worker John Decker and just look through it. He has so many amazing things. Go look at his website. It's all PG-13, so you should be fine there. He also had a series where he followed Arnold Schwarzenegger around for a day, and those photos crack me up. So go ahead and take a look at that as well. All right, your assignment for your photo of the day or photos of the week. Pick one of these images from here, or if you want, you can go to one of their websites and pick one off of their website and write 3 sentences about it. Remember to describe, evaluate the composition, and give your opinion. Please make sure you are doing all 3 to get credit. For each one you are missing, I will be removing 1 point. All right, remember for your evaluation critique, these are just some suggestions. You can talk about the angles, the lighting, elements of art or principles of design, such as movement, scale. You can talk about color, form, value, so many things. Or your photo composition, rule of thirds. Like I said, those are all just suggestions. And I really hope you didn't forget these because these were all taught to you last quarter. Lastly, you need to comment on a classmate's post in 1 sentence, and you must have evidence. What I mean about that is you can say, I agree with your critique because the lighting is this, or I disagree with your critique because the lighting is not this. You have to have that because part. If you do not do a comment, I will be removing 1 point. All right, you guys, bye.